Zionist Christians blindly follow Israel and will support them until the death. And these Christians have absolutely no idea what Jews even teach about Jesus Christ. And if you read the Talmud, which is the oral traditions that the Jews follow after and even hold above the Old Testament, you will discover a shocking anti-narrative meticulously crafted by Jews in order to discredit Jesus as being a false prophet. Now, the information I'm going to be sharing with you today comes from a book titled Jesus in the Talmud, and it was written by an Antichrist Jew named Peter Schaeffer. This guy openly admits what the Talmud teaches about Jesus and has gone over every instance of Jesus being mentioned in this book. So if you want to fact check what I'm saying, go buy this book and read it. So starting off, the Talmud says that before Jesus was even born, Mary was thrown out of the house by Joseph for being a whore. During her time on the streets, it's said that Mary had sex with a Roman soldier, and that this Roman soldier was Jesus's biological father. So this means, according to the Talmud, that Jesus is not even a physical descendant of Abraham. They deny that he was even a Jew. So the Talmud skips ahead a few years from this point and says that Jesus went and worked as a physical laborer in Egypt in order to earn some cash. And it says that Jesus, during his time in Egypt, became a sorcerer after learning the Hermetic alchemy that the Egyptians taught. And it says that Jesus was so conceited in his newfound sorcerer abilities that he gave himself the title of God. The Talmud then states that after some time he returned to Jerusalem and started to study under a so-called rabbi. And after some time, these two had a misunderstanding, which resulted in Jesus making some lewd sexual comments about a woman to this man's face. And in response to this, it says that this man excommunicated Jesus. And Jesus tried to get back under this man's discipleship many times, it says. And after a while, this so-called rabbi decided he wanted to show some mercy on Jesus. And as he went to go and seek him out, Jesus had been filled with bitterness and resentment towards this man. And the Talmud states that when Jesus saw his so-called rabbi again, he bowed down to a brick and started to worship it. Then his so-called rabbi exclaims that Jesus has enticed Israel into idolatry. So after this point, it's stated that Jesus essentially went around and deceived everybody into thinking that he was God through his sorcery. So after a while of him doing this, it's stated that the Jews decided he needed to be put to death. But they were fearful of retaliation from people in government because Jesus had connections to the government because of his Roman soldier father. So it's stated that these people gave Jesus a very fair trial and set out for 40 days to find a witness that would testify on behalf of Christ. And it's also said that Jesus lied about prophesying of his own death because everybody knew he was going to die. So he was just claiming to have special revelation of something that was already public knowledge. So after this point, it's stated that Jesus was stoned to death instead of dying on a cross. And after they had stoned him to death, it's stated that they went and nailed his corpse to a tree. After this, somebody managed to contact Jesus through necromancy and sorcery. And it stated that this man saw Jesus in hell boiling in a vat of excrement, feces, poop. And when asked why he was there, Jesus said it was because he disrespected the sages and said that you should not be following the Talmudic teachers. And that is what the Talmud has to say about Jesus Christ. And Zionist Christians, upon hearing this, will likely try and make excuses for the Jews. And they'll probably say, oh, well, that was just a handful of Jews many, many centuries ago. They don't still teach that today. Except that they do. Jews still to this day openly teach that Jesus is in hell, boiling in a vat of crap.
איתו למעלה שמות הגמרא בדיוק מאוזנות שם הגמרא דנים אותו בצואה רותחת חבילה של צואה של פסולת שיוצא מהקיבה של בני אדם וחתולים וכלבים ואריות ונמרים רותחת מבעבעת שם שמים אותו שם הוא נענש לרצון רגע זה ככה וזה לא הבאתם כל הכנסיות כל הצלבים שלהם, הצלב הגדול הזה על הארון בברזיל, מתפוצץ לרסיסים, לכל העולם, וכולם יראו את זה, כולם יראו את זה, ולהוציא את השקר של כולם החוצה, את השקר של הנצרות הזאת החוצה, שבשם כביכול בורא עולם, בשם כביכול משהו כתפיים רכבות הוא לוקח את העבודות של כולם, את העבודות של כולם הוא ייקח,
They also acknowledge that the Pharisees, the same people who had Jesus killed, and that Jesus would constantly expose as the lying religious hypocrites that they were for teaching against the Word of God by teaching the Talmud, these Jews also openly acknowledge that these Pharisees are the Talmudic sages.
And the New Testament talks against the Jewish sages regularly. New Testament is the most anti-Semitic book in the world. If people actually know what it says, you'll see how anti-Semitic it is. And unfortunately, most people don't realize what the words mean. So Pharisees is referring to the sages, the Jewish sages. And Yoshke, Jesus spoke against the sages. He hates the sages. This is the reason why the Christians and the Messianic Jews, which is really Christians in disguise, or the number one thing that they hate is the oral Torah. They hate the Talmud, they hate the Gemara, they hate the Mishnah, because that's where all the sages are. And those were the enemies of Jesus. So he caused damage, and he's still causing damage to this day. And he's in Gehenom until this day, and he's never going to come out.
And to leave this off, I'm just going to link a video I did a while back of everything that Jesus has to say about the Talmud. So, what is it going to be, Zionist Christians? Are you going to continue to support Israel? Or are you going to wise up to the facts that these people are not God's chosen people and that they hate Jesus Christ? And that instead of constantly supporting this political Zionist movement, you should instead preach the gospel to these people so they can get saved.